a sneak peek of Marvel's Avengers, and more coming up on today's episode of the latest in tech news. Hey, Gadget here. You're just in time for the latest episode of the world's only 3-in-1 show on tech, gadget, and gaming news. That's right, this is the latest in tech news. My name is Taylor Merrick, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now so that you don't miss out on the latest news that we have for you. And be sure to share this episode with a friend, but only with those that you trust. Hey, for those of you who have been longtime listeners, that's a callback. Which episode was it that I mentioned it in? I don't know, but yeah, feel free to share this episode with your friends, only those that you trust, because I guarantee you probably have other friends that you like sharing this news with. So keep that news to yourself, and for those who you feel like could help, you pass the word on. Also, wait until you get to a part of the show that you actually like to hit that like button if you're watching today's episode via YouTube, which, by the way, you can watch all of the shows. We do have a video feature available over at youtube.com/TechNewsGadget, and today's Friday, so I know you're used to me usually having a little bit shorter episode. We'll have a little bit of a shorter one. We got a lot of content to get through, namely, somebody got a sneak peek of Marvel's Avengers and dropped a whole lot of info. They're probably going to get banned for it, so it's probably not going to be around for very long, so we'll see it while you still can. I'm only going to show bits and pieces of it. It's actually part of a Reddit thread, and like I had said when I had first covered this game at E3, I said, it seems to be lacking in some things, but I'm actually more intrigued than I am disappointed, so I want to see how this goes moving forward, and it looks like it's not going to disappoint, so we'll be taking a look at that. We'll also be taking a look at, Windows Defender getting renamed. Also, we'll be taking a look at Blizzard Entertainment co-founder Frank Pierce quitting. Siri OS predicted for the 2020 WWDC, possibly. In gadgets, we'll be taking a look at the Galaxy Note 10 rumor roundup, everything we know so far. Using Ethernet cables whenever you can. And finally, we'll be taking a look at Fallout 76 desperately needing to tell their team you need to play test its patches more. You don't just drop them into the wild and say, hey guys, have fun, there might be bugs. I can't believe I just mimicked a podcaster that I watched. Anyways, speaking of podcasts, did you know that this show has been nominated for an award? Yes, indeed it has, and you, the listener, can help. We need your nominations to move on to the voting stage, so head on over to podcastawards.com, register for a free account. It'll only take you a couple minutes. We are listed in the technology category as latest in tech news, so be sure to save us as a nomination. It'll be moving on to, voting very shortly here. The nominations will be wrapping up at the end of July, so make sure you nominate today to secure, being able to vote later on down the road. Also, I mentioned this a couple times earlier this week and yesterday. Yes, the forums is back, and I'm planning on being on it a lot more often. It's just sometimes my work is really a hassle. So I'm going to be on there best I can. Register right now for your free account by going to forum.technewsgadget.net. And there's also a link on the website, technewsgadget.net. Would love to see you over there. Did you know that if you register, you get even more free perks and access to registered members only forum where we get to talk about stuff that the general public just doesn't get to see. So get all that and more, forum.technewsgadget.net. And all right, with that out of the way, I don't have a Did You Know segment, but I do have a Today in Tech History. So let's get started with that, shall we? All right, being that today is July 19th, 2019, on this day in tech history, in the year 2000, Apple introduces the G4 Cube Power Macintosh. At the time of introduction, it was one of the smallest desktop computers ever produced, and while not considered a commercial success, it did find a small, dedicated following and was a foreshadowing of future Apple designs. And yes, in case you were wondering, Steve Jobs did show off that product, and I guess it did well because they did put a bunch of features in it and included it to some extent. Moving on down the line. Also, on this day in history, in 1983, the first three-dimensional reconstruction of a human head via a CT scan was published. On July 19th, 1983, Michael Vanier and his co-workers Jay Marsh and Jay Warren, essentially the collective of Mallinckrodt Institute of Radiology, St. Louis, Cleft Palate and Craniofacial Deformities Institute, and St. Louis Children's Hospital and the McDonnell Aircraft Company published the first three-dimensional reconstruction of a single computed tomography, or CT, slices of the human head. Computer-aided aircraft design techniques were adapted to make the cranial imaging possible. Since then, CT imaging has become a cornerstone of the medical profession. Prior to that, who had any idea about how the brain looked like as to, well, CT scan wise, and meant a lot to the medical community and definitely used by professionals worldwide still to this day, but the machines still don't like going in them. They're way too small. I don't know about you, but they're way too small. You have like claustrophobia in there or something. So with that out of the way, let's head on over to today's feature story. And feature of all feature stories, well, the Promise 102 decided to, I guess they were at an SDCC gameplay conference, behind the scenes showcase of Marvel's Avengers. And in case you guys don't know, Marvel's Avengers is a video game coming out in 2020, I believe. It was demoed at E3 this year, so it has been covered at least on the show, and it was received with some lackluster affair. Some people liked it, some people didn't, some people were disappointed that it didn't really show off much, and then this dropped. Now, it was probably not intended to be. This person's probably going to get banned at a moment's notice. This is actually posted on Reddit, and I will have the links to this video. It's about a 12-minute long video in its entirety, split up into 6-minute videos. There's a part 1 and part 2. Looking at a part 1 right now, and I'm only going to show a little part of it, and I'm also going to mute it. Let's just say it's very much classic Avengers. We have very much classical dialogue between the characters, between Thor, between Iron Man, as we see so far. And let's just say when it comes to this, looks like a much smoother based, you know, when you whack a dude with a hammer like you're going to just see here momentarily, it actually looks and feels like you thumped the guy pretty good. And this guy gets thumped on the ground. This guy gets rocket thumped into oblivion. Boing! So there you are. There's all of that. So that's about all I'm going to show you guys for right now, because this is going to be made available on YouTube. But what do you think? Like I said, the links will be in the show notes. You can head on over to TechNewsGadget.net. This was posted on the Marvel Avengers Project subreddit by the Promise 102. So it's probably the top post, the hottest post going on right now in that subreddit thread. But yeah, man, it is coming to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Stadia, and PC. I'm most likely going to get it on PC. Let's just say, looking at the gameplay, and I have watched the whole entire thing. Matter of fact, let's click on over to part 2. Ooh, look, we have Thor. Thor running around punching people. It feels very much, you know, realistic. You got the particle effects going on, really nice graphics, explosions, everything. The characters feel good. It feels like you're controlling the character. They're moving along with your input. They're smashing stuff. The realism is really on point, even though the story's a little bit different. It's fine. I'm okay with them taking a different spin on the story with Marvel's Avengers and having them just smashing stuff and blowing up stuff and doing missions and stuff. And I'm going to pause the video right there. And if you're listening via the podcast, like I said before, we do the show on YouTube, so there's a video that's going along with it right now that you're missing out on, youtube.com/TechNewsGadget. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. I guess this post on the subreddit thread said, sadly, the last part, security, almost caught me. So people are very excited about it. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to this game. It feels like a nice, crisp, complete, I'm going to use that word carefully, version of a nice mashup off the top of my head between the Spider-Man game for the PlayStation 4, the Spider-Man exclusive, and Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight, by far, from the Batman Arkham series, was a very solidly smooth game. I enjoyed it very, very much. It almost seems like a mashup with that, Shadow of War, and the Spider-Man game, although they probably didn't use the engines or anything from Shadow of War. So what am I talking about? I just like it. When you play a character, you want to play a character. You want to enjoy the character. You want to have fun. You want it to react as you in real time to the input that you're giving it. It wants to feel fun. So if you ever wanted to feel like, yeah, you know, when I was watching the Avengers movies and all the explosions was going on, and I was watching all my favorite characters running around, duking it out against waves of minions, and just pulverizing them and all of that. You know, the same feeling that you got from watching the movie, like, yeah, he solidly punched that guy. And specifically, I'm referencing the time that Thanos popped out the power ring and popped the superhero clear across into the next galaxy. As far as going with that, it feels nice when you can copy it over into a game and have that same feel, like I'm responsible for, you know, smashing that truck or jumping on top of that dude and throwing them into the, you know, the lake or river or ocean, albeit in this case. So yeah, I figured I'd give you guys a sneak peek to Marvel's Avengers. I know the E3 didn't have the greatest demo video. I wish they did a better job on it, but it's E3. You'll have a wide variety of stuff, from finished projects to projects who look like they're done, but they're really not, and then projects that look like this, where they were received with like lackluster affair, and then you went, oh, it's actually going to be a good game. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And then other games were like, dang, you can make that game now? Wow, that looks pretty good. So yeah, as always, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section, good, bad, or otherwise, what you're thinking of. If you're going to be getting Marvel Avengers, indeed, post about that as well, and maybe we can get enough hype going. Maybe some stuff would be in the works, but we'll talk about that more on the forums. With that out of the way, let's head on over to our next story. Alright, next up, for those of you who have the Windows PC, well, Windows Defender will no longer be a thing in the Windows 10 operating system, as Microsoft will be renaming the tool to the Microsoft Defender. So instead of using Windows Defender or disabling it, you'll have to disable or use Microsoft Defender instead. It's unclear if previous versions of Windows, namely Windows 8.1, being the last version left standing after the end of support of Windows 7 in January of 2020, will be receiving the same treatment. The Windows Defender Exploit Guard, the native EMET derivative, will receive the same treatment, as it will be known as Microsoft Defender Exploit Guard in 2020. The most recent build of Windows 10 version 20H1, the first feature update build of 2020 and the first major update since Windows 10 version 1905, comes with the changed names already. Now, if you check the group policy entries for the security tool or the settings application, you will notice the change right away. So, one question that has not been answered yet: why in the world is Microsoft making the change? Likely explanation, and colleagues over at DeskModder seem to agree. GHacks and DeskModder, they're talking, is that Microsoft wants to use the Microsoft name for services and tools that are available on multiple platforms, and the Windows name if a service or tool is only available on Windows. So Microsoft, cross-platform. Windows, Windows-specific. So I guess they're clearing that up. It's also quite possible that Microsoft wants to bring Microsoft Defender or services related to the security tool to other platforms, and that it made a name change because of that. So not really a big deal, but it could be a big deal. The question is, too many name changes or changes that make sense? What's your take? Love to hear your thoughts as always. With that, let's head on over to the next article. Alright, well, a bit of disappointing news. The Blizzard co-founder, Frank Pierce, will be leaving the studio after 28 years. Yeah, this is the guy who founded Blizzard with Mike Morhaime and Alan Adham. He's going to be leaving. He's leaving the game developer company after 28 years, and he released it in a joint statement with J. Allen Brack, the president of the company. He says, "The time has come for me to step away from Blizzard and pass the torch on to the next generation of leaders." He recounted the formation of Blizzard, known originally as, here you go, here's a bit of trivia, Silicon and Synapse, with co-founders Mike Morhaime and Alan Adham, saying, "Looking back, I know how incredibly fortunate I was to have been a part of what Blizzard has become." Pierce was a programmer on Blizzard's earlier titles, including The Lost Vikings, Blackthorn, Diablo, and StarCraft. He later took on the role of Chief Development Officer at Blizzard. So his departure comes less than a year after Morhaime announced his departure from Blizzard. The other co-founder, Alan Adham, left Blizzard in 2004, but returned back to the company in 2016. Brack called Pierce an integral, though not always prominently visible, member of Blizzard. Many of you probably haven't seen him publicly, nor seen the deep impact he's had on Blizzard and on the culture specifically, Brack said, but Frank has been here from the beginning, building and expanding the foundation and championing the values behind everything Blizzard does. Blizzard is better because of Frank Pierce. So, let's see, what does he say? "I've worked very hard and very passionately for a long time," Pierce said. "Now it is time for me to reflect and be thoughtful about what comes next. I plan to spend more time active in the outdoors. I'd like to learn to play an instrument. I hope to devote more time to certain aspects of my life that might have not gotten as much attention in the past. One thing is for certain, I will continue to be part of the Blizzard family. My request and hope for all of you is that you continue living the Blizzard values and that you be kind and respectful to one another as you experience what Blizzard creates in the future. Blizzard is a special place and a special community, and everyone with whom you interact is important to the Blizzard journey as it continues forward. Thanks to everyone for the wonderful past I have shared, and thank you in advance for the great future I expect we will share." So, it sounds to me like he's retiring. It sounds to me like he wants to move on to, enjoy retired life and the outdoors and everything else that goes along with that. So, well wishes to you. Thanks for all you have done, Frank. You did a great job with founding Blizzard and all the work that you put in behind the scenes. Imagine. Who could have imagined 28 years later, watching Blizzard from how it started to every title that it deals with now and everything going on behind the scenes? They definitely have a lot of good going for them. So, well wishes in the comments down below. With that, let's move on to our next story. So, Siri OS might be a thing for 2020, specifically the announcement at WWDC, and there's little detail on what it could be, but the Voice Tech 2019 report from investment firm Mangrove anticipates a greater shift into voice-based computing over the next decade, with the use of systems that rely on AI and machine learning, as well as voice recognition, likely to spawn a new generation of tech that companies use in every category. Equipped with a higher than 95% word accuracy rate that puts them on par with humans for understanding language, it is claimed voice is a far more natural, convenient, and efficient form of communication via a device than typing, and will become the primary human-machine interface in the future. Oh no, this just takes me right back to watching Star Trek episodes. Any season of any episode of any show they've ever done, where you hear computer and it goes boop, and then you say whatever you want, like give me food, and it goes here you go, or where is so and so, I can't find them, which is typically the case in Star Trek. And it's like, well, what happened? Well, they were last seen exiting the vehicle. What do you mean? We're in the middle of space. How can they just leave? I think they phased, sir. Shut up, Spock. And then they, have this fight down the alleyway as they try to figure out what's going on, only to find out, computer, turn off simulation. Turns out it was a simulation the whole time. So there you go. That's all I'm thinking about right now. I don't know about you guys. This is pretty funny though. But the rise of Internet of Things devices and smart appliances with voice recognition systems is also highlighted, along with the wide variety of languages supported by Google and the flexibility of Alexa skills. So, seeing as how that is being done, Mangrove believes investment in voice startups has reached $768 million in 2019 so far, above the $581 million observed last year and $298 million the year before. Over $1 billion is said to be invested in voice startups in the US, with another $118 million in Europe. So, along with that, there's the privacy and the ecosystem thing that's going along with it. And the example given is Apple's acquisition of Silk Labs, which relies and mainly deals with on-device AI software that performs processing on the iPhone or iPad itself without relying on communicating with cloud servers. In contrast, Apple is said to have been less effective at building an ecosystem around voice. The division of the Knowledge Navigator suggests Apple's voice technology was more clearly articulated in 1987 than it is now, so it remains to be seen. The voice community expects Apple to release a Siri OS for its developer community at WWDC 2020, which would accelerate innovation and adoption. So, Siri OS might be desirable for enabling innovation and is viewed by many as required to match the progress made by Amazon and Google with their voice assistants. But there's really no discussion as to what form the Siri OS would take, how it would look, what it would do. But it all remains to be seen. And if you guys want to read the rest of the article, it'll be in the show notes for today's episode. So, yeah. Automation, shortcuts, can I just talk to the phone? Is it going to listen all the time? Is this information going to be sent to people who can just listen to my conversations at random? Or is this just going to be on board my computer, namely my iPhone, and just computed there and then dealt with there, kept separate from any cloud-based systems or having to reach out for, communication to an actual real-life person listening to conversations on the back end? But Apple usually does a good job with security and privacy and everything with that, so it really shouldn't be too much of a concern Apple-wise. It'd be more concerning for Facebook if they were to announce something like this. But that remains to be seen. With that out of the way, let's head on over to some gadget news. Alright, so the Galaxy Note 10. I remember a couple days ago, or was that yesterday? Covered the Pixel 4. Well, Galaxy Note 10 is coming out soon. Here's what we know so far. Ahead of the launch of the Samsung Galaxy Note 10, we have quite a bit of information and plenty of rumors to delve into. Always the biggest of the Galaxy line, the Note 10 looks to slightly buck the trend of all-out Galaxy due to some core removals. Some of these omissions might annoy some of the more hardcore Samsung and Note fans out there. Hopefully the introductions here are enough to keep people happy. Maybe not too sure about that either. In the past, the Galaxy Note line has always felt more like a revision of the Galaxy S line by adding more productivity features and enhancement that take advantage of the normally larger display and S Pen support. In recent years, though, the Galaxy S seems to have encroached a little too close on the Note. This year looks set to be the first time in a while that we're seeing the return of true differentiation in a design, at the very least. So, release date and availability. We know that the Note 10 Unpacked 2019 event is set for August 7th in New York City. As for availability, reports suggest that the lineup will go on sale in South Korea on August 23rd, closely followed by other markets globally. We're expecting 2 devices to be shown at the keynote, although there are rumors of a 5G-powered Note 10 that could be announced too. This would definitely fit in line with the Galaxy S10 5G that was announced earlier this year. Of course, still speculation, so take it with a pinch of salt, as conflicting reports suggest that one of the 2 guaranteed devices could offer 5G support. Specifications, being that it's a flagship line of 2019, the Note 10 and Note 10 Plus will go all out as you'd expect. That means a Snapdragon 855 chipset, although unfortunately we won't be seeing any overclocked 855 Plus. We'll also be looking at least 8 gigs of RAM and up to 1 terabyte of internal storage. And Europe will be getting the new 7nm Exynos 9825 chipset rather than the Snapdragon. The superb OnePlus 7 Pro has super fast eUFS 3.0 storage, and while we aren't 100% sure we do believe rumors that the Note 10 and 10 Plus will come with faster storage as well. This should make the device blazingly fast in the same way that the OnePlus 7 Pro is. As for battery capacities, notorious smartphone industry leaker Ice Universe stated earlier this year that the Note 10, Note 10 Pro, known as the Note 10 Plus now, will come with a massive 4500 mAh battery. The slightly smaller but still large Note 10 is expected to come with at least a 4100 mAh battery to match the Galaxy S10 Plus. So, yeah, there we go. Any potential Note 10 5G variant could go larger still if it is indeed a separate model like we saw with the S10 5G. Could this be the first one with a mammoth 5000 mAh battery? Well, don't have to wait too much longer to see if that will be the case. Let's see. Charging speed. It could be, yeah. It seems to be coming with a standard 25-watt charge brick in the box, meaning it's a bit disappointing if you wanted 45-watt charging and you'd have to upgrade. Wireless charging is rumored to be supported up to 20W though. As for the camera, sensors are reportedly set to match those found on the Samsung Galaxy S10 5G. That means it'll pack in a main 12 megapixel sensor, 12 megapixel telephoto lens, 16 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, and a 3D time of flight depth sensor for improved effects. Now it's unclear whether the front facing camera will bring to the table a dual front facing camera or just one. Originally, there were rumors that the new S Pen could come with a built-in camera, and while that would be very cool, it's highly unlikely, and obviously it would have terrible images and video if ever implemented, but don't get us wrong, it would still be unbelievable to have the option to act like James Bond with an actual, real-life spy pen. So as for design and features, this is what we're looking at due to leaked images. As for colors, a wealth of colors, a couple regional exclusive differences of limited edition two-tone colors. The Note 10 is expected to have at least 5 gradient colors to choose from, including black, silver, lavender, white, and pink. Now, as for the display, well, looking pretty good. Revised slightly, and not as bad as the previous version. It's also upping the screen to body ratio significantly with an impressive 83.9% boost. So, woo. There you go. Pricing wise, standard Note 10 is expected to come in around $1,100, and the Note 10 Plus is expected to come in around $1,200 to $1,300 US. Prices might not reflect regional variations in taxes, but what you might expect. So, with that, let's head on over to the second to last article, the final gadget article that I got lined up for you. Alright, well, please use Ethernet cables whenever you can. For those of us old enough to remember a time before Wi-Fi, there's still something genuinely magical about it. Internet in the air, right? Can you believe it? Well, because of it, we've cut way down on cables and can now access the internet anywhere in our homes, and the signal strength is generally good enough to stream HD videos and play online video games against people around the world. Except for when it isn't. And, well, you see, wired internet still exists and it's still going strong. In fact, you should probably still use it whenever you can. Convenience doesn't always produce the best results, and that's definitely true when it comes to internet speeds. Ethernet cables might be old-fashioned, but there are still plenty of reasons why you should use them whenever possible. What makes them better? Well, let's just say connection. It doesn't have to worry about going through walls, namely, and whatever the materials are in the walls affects the signal strength of Wi-Fi. So obviously, if you're going to be doing something more internet intensive that you'll need more data for, one option is you're either going to have to sit closer to or in the same room that the router modem thing is, or just do it on an Ethernet connected computer. You could try that wired. But if you're just going to be, watching videos and you don't need the greatest internet, or you're just doing some basic tasks on the internet, you're not really going to be needing that hardcore. But if you're like me, here's what I'll say. For me, The Wi-Fi works great, except when it doesn't. And for what I need it for, namely streaming, creating videos, uploading videos, and everything that I do online, you don't want to know I have like a bunch of tabs open and things editing and things running in the background and things using internet data. The amount of data that must move up and down just on my line alone must be atrocious. Because they're like, what the heck is going on with this guy? He uses internet. It's like he just eats it. He's like the Cookie Monster for the internet. It's seriously, that's probably me. And I pay enough for it anyways, but it's wired, so I don't have to worry about the dropped connections. I don't have to worry about any slow speed, and I'm connected in. So when should you use it? Well, there are times when the benefits of going onto a hard connection aren't going to be that noticeable. If you're just messing around in a web browser and doing some work while occasionally firing up a YouTube video, Wi-Fi is going to serve you just fine. Drawbacks probably won't affect your experience in the slightest. Same goes for most streaming services. You're watching things on Netflix, probably no reason to plug an Ethernet cable in. Once 4K streaming becomes more ubiquitous, you might want to upgrade to a wired connection for that, and to some extent that depends on if you're downloading large game files or if the console that you're using to play your video games recommends that you have a wired connection. So why don't more devices support it? Well, there's a number of popular devices that really don't have an alternative. Streaming sticks, which are cheap and common, usually don't come with Ethernet ports at all, and you can usually get an adapter $15 or so, but if Wi-Fi is good enough, many people won't bother. So it's most likely a cost-cutting measure, and plus Ethernet ports are admittedly pretty big and wouldn't fit on a little streaming stick anyway. Kudos to the Google Chromecast Ultra for supporting Ethernet users by default. Now, another question everybody's asking, well, won't this like 5G internet fix the problem? Well, the elephant in the room here is that the 5G revolution is coming slowly to the US, meaning wireless internet will eventually be much, much faster than it is now. Unfortunately, this doesn't mean much when it comes to whether or not you should invest in Ethernet cables. Right now, 5G internet access in the US is pretty spotty. It's only available in some cities, and within those cities, sometimes it's only available in certain neighborhoods. Plus, just because a city has mobile 5G coverage doesn't mean home 5G is accessible there yet. It's going to be a long while before 5G is the default. Even when we get there, there's no guarantee it will make wired internet obsolete. It could still suffer from range issues and the same interference problems that currently plague Wi-Fi. And it's probably just best to put an Ethernet cable in for the time being. Okay, so last article I got for you guys lined up. Apparently Fallout 76 now is getting yelled at because apparently they desperately need to test play its patches more. And well, for those of you who don't know, this week is Comic-Con International in San Diego, which is fairly light on video game news actually, but it doesn't mean nothing's happening. So Fallout 76 needs a test server, something fierce. They're continuing to have what those of us in the biz call a rough time. On Tuesday, Bethesda released a new patch for the game, Patch 11, intended to fix a number of bugs and provide broader content improvements. It's not going well, and if you've been playing the game, you know. According to PC Gamer, the patch has removed some players' power armor and is outright preventing high-level items from dropping off of enemies, even though the patch was supposed to actually make them drop faster. Now, in response to the latest controversy, Bethesda has canceled a planned live stream, while fans have started asking for something that a lot of games like Fallout 76 already have. A test server. A test server, for those who don't know, is a specific server of the game set aside for updates to be rolled out early so willing players can serve as testers of the content in a live environment. You didn't seriously figure this out the first time? That stuff. Okay. Well, you already know my thoughts on the entire thing. What are your thoughts? I'd actually love to hear them down in the comment section. So, if you're playing Fallout 76 and having a problem, let me know. And we can all just relate with the problem that they're having, and hopefully they'll do something and fix something soon. Otherwise, they're just going to be watching their player base slowly eat away at themselves, and then when they finally do have a fully functioning game, they'll have lost the market, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But it's something they could do. It's something they could do without even knowing what they're doing. But hopefully not. They're a big enough studio, they should know what they're doing. So, all right, I'm not gonna say anything more because I'm probably gonna lose it. And I think that was probably a good plan too, because it's late. I'm tired. It's been a long day. Keep in mind, we won't be having a show tomorrow or the day after because that's Saturday and Sunday, but we will be back here on Monday. And with that, that wraps up this episode of the Latest in Tech News. Thanks for tuning in, guys. New episodes every weekday. Latest in Tech News can be found on every major platform, including Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Stitcher, Overcast, and more. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to let us know by clicking that like button and by leaving a comment. And if you're listening to the podcast, be sure to head on over and leave us a review. Also, double check that you are subscribed so that you don't miss the next episode. I'm your host, Taylor Merrick, and remember, for the latest in tech, gadget, and gaming news, visit TechNewsGadget.net. Pretty much, keep being awesome, guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.